Hey, Bookkeeping Side Hustle community. Great to have you here today. We are here with our final interview of our job fair with Intuit this fall 2021. We are going to be talking with two tax professionals who work for TurboTax Live from Canada. So as a reminder, maybe if you're just seeing this for the first time, we're recruiting for 3 jobs: the QuickBooks Live jobs in the US, the TurboTax Live jobs in the US, and then these are the TurboTax Live jobs in Canada. We have 2 guests, Joanne and Mark. They have different jobs at TurboTax Live there in Canada, so it's going to be a great chance to see how you can come in. Mark's manager. We'll have them introduce themselves, and they've also had different jobs in their time at TurboTax Canada, so they can kind of talk about several different options. Reminder, if you want to apply for these jobs, there'll be a link below in the description, or you can always go to bookkeepingsidehustle.com/Intuit, and there's some gray boxes that say apply now, and that's how you can find out, or that's how you can start the application process. And don't forget, if what these two folks are saying today is appealing to you and you want a little more information, we interviewed Samir, one of the recruiters for TurboTax Canada, on October 5th, I believe. It's one of the earlier interviews in this job fair, so go back and watch that to get some more details about the logistics of applying and figure out how to meet Samir and kind of get those wheels greased for you in that application process. So that's the admin. And now I would like our guests to introduce themselves. Mark, can we start with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Kate. So my name is Mark Jacobs. I am a manager in consumer services at Intuit. I've been at Intuit for almost a year now. And prior to that, I worked at Ernst & Young in a firm. I worked at Sierra as an auditor. I worked in large multinationals, and I also own my own accounting practice, but geared towards more corporate clients.
All right. And Joanne, what about you?
Okay, so my name is Joanne Harvey, and I have been with Intuit for pretty much the same as Mark, almost a year, about 10 months. And prior to my time with Intuit, I had a couple little gigs for a brief period of time, but before that, my main career background was on the investment side of financial services. So my partner and I had investments, insurance, and we did some tax work. So a little bit of tax experience there that turned into something that Intuit valued.
Okay, but so you weren't like a dedicated tax person before that, so that's kind of encouraging. So you were in sort of finance in general, and
Mhm,
were able to parlay that into tax work. Okay,
mhm.
um, well, I want to dive into our questions. Joanne, I'll start with you. Tell us what your favorite thing about working for Intuit in this remote role is. Tell us like one of the things, one, two, three of the things you're most excited about this job.
Awesome. So, for sure, the ability to work from home is fantastic, and the setup that Intuit provides to make that possible is great. They give you everything you need, and not having to commute is wonderful. And I live in an area of Ontario that otherwise would not make this a possibility for me if remote wasn't an option. Um, and the other one other really key thing is the support and the knowledge base of the tax experts here. Like I said, my background is mainly with investment related tax scenarios. So when I began with Intuit and was exposed to a huge variety of scenarios, knowing there were people to turn to for support and help and guidance was really comforting and gave me the confidence to do the job. Hmm.
So I always like to make sure these interviews paint the whole picture. So is there anything about the job that is less than desirable that you would change if they put you in charge tomorrow? Things that or hiccups you've had to overcome?
Yeah, well, as you say, I mean, there's always going to be something, but Intuit, for the most part, I would say, is a fantastic company to work for. Of course, they have some issues. I mean, maybe some communication uh, issues from the top down with changes and what have you. But at the end of the day, it's a company that's growing at a very fast pace. So some of these hiccups are to be expected. And
Right.
I would say for the most part, it's handled exceptionally well. Mhm.
Okay. Well,
Mhm.
thanks for that. Mark, this is a question I would like to ask you as well. So favorite parts, best parts of the role, and then maybe also if there was any things that you would change, or that you like least of all.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. So one of the best part of the job for me is the people. So when I joined Intuit, one of the reasons why I joined Intuit is because owning my own practice, I was working on my own quite a bit, and so I was looking towards working with people again, and I found that the people that get hired at Intuit have a super positive mindset. They're go-getters. They want to work together, and so being part of that team is really, really, really fun. You get a very good positive feeling every day to go to work. You don't feel like, oh, like that feeling that you get sometimes when you work with people that you don't want to work with. You don't
Yeah.
get that at Intuit. It's a really nice open team. So that was definitely the best part of working for Intuit. As well, like Joanne said, working remotely, and then they're flexible with that, especially now with COVID, all that stuff. That the remote work is definitely a plus. Having kids also, it makes things a lot easier as well. In terms of things, let's say that I would maybe change, or I've worked for several companies, and I would say that Intuit by far is the best one, and not just because I'm currently there, but like Joanne was sort of talking about, it is a very fast growing company, and they pivot a lot, and so because they shoot for the stars, it also requires you to move very fast, and so the downside to that is you got to be ready to pivot quite a bit. So you maybe be working on something, putting a lot of energy towards something, and then you need to pivot to something else very fast, right? And so it's not necessarily a negative thing. It's just a matter of knowing that, and it's not for everybody to it's not for everyone.
Okay. Mark, I know that you mentioned that you've been hired within the last year, so I'd love for you to share your experience about what the recruitment process was like. Maybe if you have any tips for people who are applying now, and also talk about the onboarding process. How did that go? How were you supported? Those sorts of questions.
Sure.
How did you, when you were, from when you first thought about applying for the job to kind of getting through those initial first days?
Yeah, no problem. So when I was actually not looking for a job necessarily. So I just like I'm sure many of us, you're on Indeed, you're on all these sites that you just get a pop up once in a while. And so I had gotten a recruitment email from Intuit. And to be fair, I'm not even sure, I don't remember exactly from which site anymore, but I got a recruitment email. And going through it, I was like, oh, it's seasonal work. Sort of like it fit into what I needed at the time, in terms of there was a slowdown for myself for my practice. I was like, this is actually really great. So I applied online, got a call back pretty soon after, and in terms of the interview process and all that stuff, it was pretty straightforward, typical to other companies where you go through the interview process, they'll quiz you. The big difference is it was all done remotely, right? So you got to
Mhm.
be prepared for that. In regards to answering questions, get ready to answer questions in front of a screen, not necessarily in front of a real person. So that does take some preparation. Um, but otherwise, the interview process was very similar. And then so I got the job, I got the offer, I got the job. Again, similar as usual. On a start date, I had about 2 weeks of training and onboarding, and I think Joanne is probably similar as well,
Mhm.
which I thought was great because they use a lot of tools, a lot of different technology, and so that was really great. Not the downside, but the one thing I want to mention is that there's a lot of tools, a lot of technology, and so you have to be ready to absorb a lot of information. The good news is even though you probably won't absorb everything right away,
Right.
you have the support afterwards to help you through it. It's not, no one's expecting you to know 100% of all the tools after 2 weeks. There's just too much. So get ready to get bombarded with information in those first 2 weeks. That's one thing that I wish they would have told me more in the interview of getting ready for that. But go through it. It's worth it because again, at the end of the day, everyone is super positive and they are there to help you. They're not looking to put anybody down, or to get rid of anybody. They're just looking to make sure that the right tools are being used, and if you need help or support, that we can help you and support you. So throughout the interview process, the other thing I'll also mention is really be yourself. And I know it's cheesy and you hear it often, but it is really important. If you feel like you don't have the tax knowledge or other knowledge, be upfront with that. Tell us what you know, and then we'll deal with the rest, right? So if you feel like you're really good at let's say self-employment income, great, talk about that. If you're not so good with foreign income, that's okay. That's fine. That's just be yourself. And then based on those, we have all sorts of various types of returns and clients that we can help out, right? So we can typically find a spot for the person to work. I hope that
Okay.
answers most of your question, Kate.
I think so. Yeah. Joanne, was your experience similar? Anything to add for that?
Yeah, I would say it was very similar. Uh, I replied to a recruitment email. I have been a long time user of Profile, which is their professional software. And for the first time ever, I received an email last year. So yeah, I replied to that, and like Mark mentioned, maybe a couple of days later, I had a call, went through the interview, and it was like you said, video recording, essay questions, and then some multiple choice. Did all that, and yeah, again, follow up was quick. Everything was pretty smooth. There were maybe a couple hiccups with the scheduling in the beginning, but I mean, again, these are little things that you kind of expect, and as long as you're not too stressed about that, it's easy to navigate through it. Like Mark said, everyone here is so supportive. Like they
What
every.
what
And, oh,
Mhm.
sorry, Kate, go for it. I
were
just
the
want to
s-
add something to Joanne,
Go
but
ahead.
go for it.
Go
Now,
ahead.
just to add to Joanne's comment, also, that's a good point. Is for people to keep in mind also when they're applying, they're not hiring 3 or 4 people; they're hiring hundreds of people at the same time. So just keep that in mind. Also, that we're trying on our end to make this as smooth as possible, but just with the sheer number of people that they're hiring, especially during tax season, that there will be some hiccups. And again, if you're okay with that, just work through it, and we'll work through it with you.
Mhm. Mhm.
The question I was going to ask Joanne, when you said there was a little bit of scheduling hiccups, were you talking about connecting with the recruiters and the managers, or getting your schedule once you were hired?
Sorry, yeah, good point. No, it was so the schedule was a full-time schedule, and that was set. It was the the period between knowing I had a job and actually the start date. So
Got it.
I
Okay.
anticipated hearing from someone sooner, and I believe it was maybe just a few days before. But as Mark
Okay.
just pointed out, hundreds of people are being hired on at the same time. So
Okay.
yeah.
Um, I want to ask Joanne for you to share with us like a typical workday. And I know you have transitioned from the seasonal role to this full-time year-round role, but talk
Yeah.
about the seasonal role too, because that's what we're mostly focused on. And my understanding is that probably most people would come in as the seasonal and then be able to get promoted if they perform well. So talk about those first days, but then also like today too. What was your day like today?
Yeah. So my position here has actually evolved quite a bit, but when I started, I was in the area referred to as escalations. So this is where people who are on the the lines with customers seeking assistance, where they receive questions that they're not able to answer, and so they reach out to the team I was on, referred to as the escalations team, and we help them either by directly answering the question, directing them to the proper research site or the answer, or if necessary, taking the call off of their hands and giving it to someone else on our team to follow up with the
Okay.
customer. After tax season, I moved into that live position, so taking calls. It's referred to as assist and review. So this is where customers who are preparing their own tax return add on this service, where they have a tax expert review what they've prepared already or answer any questions they may have. So these calls come in anytime, all throughout the day. And of course, it's super busy during tax season. Following tax season, it definitely um, falls off. Um, but still enough to keep the day full and keep your time occupied with interesting scenarios and customer experiences.
Sure.
Um, and then yeah, like there's lots of opportunities to grow in here. So there are little projects going all the time. And if you show interest and ability and initiative, uh, you can get involved in all kinds of things. So right now, I am actually involved in the recruitment process, so reviewing and evaluating candidates who are applying for positions with us in the new season.
Awesome. So you're doing a system review a little bit, but then also doing these other projects, or have you moved off assistant review?
Yep. So I cover both. So when
Okay.
I have a project to participate in, I'll pull off and do that. And then when the project's done or there's time free of that, then I'm on the lines answering calls.
All right.
Mhm.
Mark, what about you? What's the day in the life for you?
So it like Joanne, it evolved quite a bit, and that is definitely a theme. You know, we Intuit is very good at recognizing talent and poaching that talent to other groups. And so if you're talented, be ready to be poached.
Okay.
So it started off similar to Joanne. I was hired, let's say, to work in the assistant review team, and shortly, I don't even think I took a single call. I got recruited into the audit defense team, which is basically their team that responds or helps clients respond to CRA assessment letters or audits or things of that nature. And then afterwards, I moved into the quality team, and now that's where I am currently right now, where we're basically looking at trends to improve our quality in different aspects of the tax return, either through different tax compliance or internal processes as well, just to make sure that we have like highly robust and high quality tax returns, as well as answers that we're providing to our clients in AR. So typical day, sorry I gave you a big answer there, but the typical day right now is a lot of planning, a lot of connecting with various stakeholders and various teams to make sure that we're getting the right information, looking at data. This is a technology company to start with, right? So they're very big on data, which is great too, because you can really see and better understand what potential quality issues there are from my side anyways, and you can really hone in and develop and help develop various training or mitigate different risks.
So I have a question. In TurboTax Canada, are y'all filing tax returns, or are y'all doing the customer support, but the caller is actually doing their own self-filing?
I can answer that if you want, Joanne.
Okay.
All of the above, and
Okay.
hopefully more soon. So, as Joanne was saying, we have clients who do their own tax returns who just want help with a few things, and so we'll help them on the phone. We have clients who just want us to do the returns for them, and so we'll do the returns for them. And then we have clients who want to do the returns, but then want to make sure that they don't get caught on the back end with CRA audits or reviews, and so they'll ask for support there too. So basically anything and everything that has to do with the tax return.
Well, I'm glad to hear y'all say that, because I know I'm not a tax preparer, but I know there are different flavors of tax people, and the base level, they all love taxes, but some of them would much rather be really preparing returns, whereas other people are more of the customer service support. And so it sounds like there's opportunities for every type of personality, and if you're like one rather than the other, you can move around. And so that's nice at a big company where you have those lots of different roles, instead of well, it's small and we need you to do this and there's nothing you can do about it. So that sounds like the audit defense. I haven't heard any of the U.S. tax people talk about that. So I'm not saying
Yeah,
that they don't do that, but
It's Canada specific, so that's
okay.
something. Yeah,
That sounds audit's always such a scary word. Sounds
it is.
um uh so Mark, I know that you have moved into a manager role, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
So what would you say sets apart the highest performers? So that person that's going to apply, and maybe they have their sights set on a really robust career at Intuit, and they're willing to get their foot in the door, but they know they don't want to stay at that level. How do you how do you evaluate the performers? How do you assess who's the best and who will get those job offers for promotions?
Yeah. Um, So I can answer that. And to no surprise, a lot of the things I'm going to say now are probably valid for most jobs that you want to move up into. But
Sure,
some of the things that we're really looking at Intuit, are personalities, like strong go-getter personalities that are not afraid of change. They're not afraid of doing the right thing. So if you're somebody who's um, not necessarily shy, but if you're not willing to do the right thing, or to challenge when you think the right thing needs to be done, you that may be more difficult. So really, people who are go getters makes a big difference in terms of the product, or the quality of work is very important as well. So again, people who can consistently show that they give quality product and that they're learning also, right? No one's perfect. Everyone can make mistakes, which is great. Acknowledging that you don't know something is very important, but then to work at improving those flaws, let's say, is very important too. So I think those are some of the main things that are non-technical. Let's say, obviously, technical aspects for different jobs are very important. What I will say though as well is they have a very clear path into it for various job positions. Um, um, so that's something that's great, especially if you start working there and you're interested. You can look through the Intuit Insight page to see, okay, well, I'm interested in product development for some reason, right? And they'll show you exactly, or not exactly, but in general terms, what they're looking for various roles. And so you can kind of gauge on that, and then work with your manager in terms of building those goals to get you there. And so that's what's great too, is that you may not be there today, but if you work with your manager to say, hey, I'm interested in this, what do I need in terms of skills sets to get there, and
Mhm.
we'll help you to get there.
all right. Joanne, anything that stands out for you among coworkers who've really excelled?
Well, of course, everything Mark said, but maybe the one other thing is, you know, in line with our Intuit values, the obsession. So customer service obviously is pretty key and pretty important. So taking on, your customers' problems, helping solve them, being empathetic when things go wrong in the right degree,
Sure.
and just making sure to serve their needs adequately, and make them feel like they are being well taken care of, mistakes or not, right? Like, they're going to happen, but as long as we make sure the customer is listened to, and felt like they're being cared for, then that'll go a long way for sure.
All right. I have another question for you both. Do you have your own businesses? A lot of the people in my community are, entrepreneurial. They have their own, and this could be like a good baseline salary. So I'm curious about your own businesses. Joanne, can we start with you?
Sure. Yeah, I do have a small one. I don't really intend to grow it, to be honest. Now that I'm permanent
Okay.
with Intuit, but I'll maintain it at the very least and keep serving those clients for sure.
Okay.
Hmm.
What about you, Mark?
Yeah, so I'm a bit weird here, where I do have my own practice, and I actually stayed with Intuit, and I took the manager position not for necessarily for salary, because I was doing well with my own practice, is more because I really like the direction where the company is going. I'm an entrepreneur myself, and there's so much growth potential in Canada right now that I just want to be part of that. And so it's sort of like
Hmm.
building my own practice, but on a bigger scale. And so being part of that was really, really motivating for me. So I do have still my own practice. But like I mentioned before, it's mostly a corporate tax practice, let's say. And so it's more consistent in the year, right? I would see it more challenging for individuals who have personal tax practices, who want to join into it during high season, because then you're just basically doubling up your work
Yeah.
there. So
Right,
that
right,
be I
right.
could see that being a challenge in terms of managing those hours. But for myself, I'm pretty lucky in that sense, where it's pretty consistent in the year.
That's a really, really good little gem. So harder to do if you have a personal tax practice, but easier to do if you have a corporate tax practice. So for y'all listening, can you transition to that? I mean, that's just a brilliant kind of way to spread out the pain. So that thanks for sharing that. I'm also really intrigued. So when I think Intuit, one of like the biggest companies like in the world, I mean, huge, but you're saying you're like an entrepreneur at heart, like that. You described yourself as an entrepreneur, and in my mind, like I wouldn't have put those two together, but you're saying your entrepreneurial spirit is still able to thrive at what some people might say is like super corporate, like, whoa, big corporate. So that's an interesting take. So I hope people listen to that, and that even if you're an entrepreneur, you can be entrepreneurial at a corporation that values that has that value, like Intuit does, the growth and the creativity and the always hustling. And so cool.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't have any more questions. If there are questions for those watching, please feel free to chime in now. I really appreciate your time, guys. I've never been to Canada. I hope to get there one day. I'll email y'all and say, where should I go if I can ever figure out how to get up there. I'm a Texan, so it's Canada might as well be like the moon.
Just don't come in January and you'll be fine.
Okay. Good tip. Thank y'all so much. We really appreciate it. Y'all, if anyone's watching this and you want these TurboTax Live Canada jobs, please reach out to me if you have any questions, and I'll make sure to connect you with the recruiter. Maybe you can get you in touch with Joanne and Mark to get those questions answered. There's something to be said for aggressively going after these jobs. Like just hitting click on an application might not be enough. And so we're here. The whole purpose of this job fair is for this networking aspect. So, and to get you to put real people behind like the ominous, internet application screens. There are real people behind that
Yes.
that are hiring and that are willing to help.
People.
Yeah,
Truly.
I mean, y'all really have both rung that bell very loudly. So thank y'all. We'll sign off for now. And bye.